We had one day in Sydney where there was 3 or 4 of us up quite early, 6 o'clock in the morning, working, and it was bits and pieces throughout the day, pretty consistent work. And that evening was quite hectic. It was a fantastic experience. I'm not sure I could do it 4 or 5 days in a row. But, we finished about 11 o'clock and we got a phone call from a doc who said our water polo boys on the way back, they've just won their quarter final, and they're in desperate need of some recovery work and so on. They're very sore. Is it okay if you stick around? So of course we all said, my oath, we'll be there. And I think that night finished up at about 2:15. About 2:15, 2:30. So you can imagine all the hype of staying up, working with those boys, being quite active, and then you've got to try and settle down and get to bed at a reasonable hour, which of course it's already 2:30, so you're struggling. Luckily the dining hall, which seats about 10,000, is open 24 hours a day, so you can wander off and sit there with another 1,000 people sitting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Soft tissue therapy is used extensively in swimming, so we were always considered as a high priority to go away with one of those teams. It does depend on numbers though. So for instance, they might say we really want to take away a biomechanist, but gee, if we do, we might have to drop one of the other service providers. Do we drop the physio? Do we drop the soft tissue therapist? It's a difficult choice, depending on the culture, depending on the people involved, depending on what the athletes want. In some circumstances, we might end up with 2 soft tissue therapists, 3 with swimming. We might end up with 1. So it really is, it's a juggling process with regard to numbers and what the culture within that sport is at that time, and what they see as appropriate and necessary for service provision to get the best out of their athletes. Obviously recovery is, as some people describe, is the last frontier in sport. So Australia's put a lot of effort, a lot of money into recovery in the last decade, and what was seen fit was, why would we put so much effort into recovery when travelling and when at home, and then not have that service provision at Olympic Games? Now there is some form of recovery offered within the Olympic Village, but as you can imagine it's extremely busy, and it doesn't often fit the timeframes of sports and their campaigns within an Olympics. So what Australia's done is found places outside of the Olympic Village, and they will also provide recovery massage services. So we'll have often 2 therapists that work in the recovery centre, and headquarters staff will often send out another 1 or 2 people to help provide service where necessary. And that has been really quite successful in the last couple of Olympic campaigns, and I can see it you do everything that gets paid for, so your travel, all your accommodation, all your food and so on, all that does certainly get paid for. What you do get is an amazing experience, there's no doubt about that. If you love sport like I do, it's still a bit dreamy for me to think that I've been to 4. I think I'm incredibly fortunate to go to that many. I hope many people get the opportunity that love sport as much as I do, and love my industry as much as what I do, to enjoy that experience. You certainly get a whole lot of memories, and probably the most, other than those things, probably the thing that I enjoyed the most is the friends you make and the contacts you make within the sports medicine team. It's very rare that you could ring up a sports physician, for instance, and say, do you mind if I spend 5 weeks with you? I'd like to learn about you and learn how you go about assessing and treating and treatment protocols. So that experience you just cannot buy. It's an amazing experience. You get to deal with the best, and if you can't gain from that, then I don't think you can gain at all. And that's probably one of the most amazing things you get out of an Olympics, other than the athletes and the competition itself. As little as humanly possible. Of course, when you first go away, you don't know what to take, so you take it all, and you learn the hard way. And if you've ever been to some of the airports we've been to, you're trying to drag around a treatment table. At least they've got wheels on them these days. 15 years ago they didn't. And you're trying to drag around a heavy bag. And some of those airports are big, and those bags can get pretty damn heavy. So when you travel, take very little, very, very little. You can wash regularly, and if you struggle when you get over there, go down to the local supermarket and buy some clothes. Often the team will provide clothes for you. As long as you've got your jocks, your socks and your toothbrush, that's about as much as I'd take. Take your computer and a few DVDs. Connect. Bus trips can be long, and athletes can get pretty boring after sitting with them for 5-6 weeks. What you see on television is predominantly the highs, and of course there's only so many medals to be won, and you see some absolutely brilliant performances, and the glory and the ecstasy and the jubilation of the athlete, the coach, the team, us. It's extraordinary, but there'd be 100 lows to every high, and that's something that I wasn't ready for when I went to my first Olympics. I saw 1,000 lows before we even jumped on the plane to go to Atlanta. I saw people miss out on making teams by 0.03 of a second. People that have trained for 8 years, 8 solid years every day to make an Olympics, to go over there to compete, and they missed out on getting on the plane by 0.03, 0.01 of a second. She got off the bus at the Olympic Village, put a foot on the curb, tripped, sprained her ankle, had an X-ray crack, unfortunately, and the next day she was on the plane going home. So you can imagine the low that creates, but of course then someone's got to come from Australia to replace that girl, so the high occurs. One that does stick out for me is a Australian gymnast, Andre. Just before an Olympic Games in Atlanta, it was about 2 weeks before we jumped on the plane. He was ranked very high in the world, amazing gymnast, and he snapped his Achilles, which tore the heart out of us in the sports medicine team at the AIS. But he recovered. He's a tough lad. He recovered and prepared himself for a month before Sydney. Might have been 2 months before Sydney. He wandered in on crutches, and he had a couple of tears rolling down his face, and he'd snapped his other one. So a world-ranked gymnast that put in about 18 years of training, and anyone that understands gymnastics realises that it's not a Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, it's 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. And he'd done that for 18 years, and he missed out on his second Olympics. And that's probably one that really does stick out, because that guy never even got to go to the Olympics to show people what he could do and all the work that he'd done. The highest I've ever seen is they didn't win medals, but those people had PBs and made Olympic finals. The jubilation in those kids, those athletes, was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And when you're personally involved with them, again, they don't have to win a medal to see such an extraordinary high. And there are many people like that, where they won't make the newspaper, they won't make the news at night, but personally they've done so incredibly well that the jubilation probably equals that of winning a medal.